First now, Braverman is back for another pop at the Prime Minister, this time claiming his plan to fly migrants to Rwanda will fail unless he opts out of European human rights law. The former Home Secretary, who was sensationally sacked earlier this week, has attacked Rishi Sunak's approach and set out her own 5-point plan to end the deportation deadlock. In a damning verdict, Braverman branded the PM's proposed new treaty with the African country and law declaring it a safe country a tweaked version of the failed Plan A rather than an effective Plan B. Instead, she calls for new emergency legislation to block all avenues of legal challenge against the flights by excluding them from the entirety of European and human rights laws. This had Tory moderates spitting feathers, with Damien Green, who serves as Immigration Minister, warning that giving the state the explicit power to override every legal constraint is what Putin would do. Tonight, Downing Street has refused to rule out the prospect of MPs working over the Christmas period to get Sunak's Rwanda legislation through Parliament and flights off the ground. Well, first of all, Britain's poor MPs, they might have to work over Christmas. I feel so bad for them.
Like the rest of us.
£85,000 a year, they're going to have to work over Christmas. Ridiculous. If you've got to work through Christmas, do like everyone else does and work through Christmas. But Braverman, she just sounds like a spoiled brat. She's saying there is no longer any chance of stopping the boats within the current legal framework. There is no longer any chance. There's never been a chance. It's always looked this way. Rwanda is not a safe place. The Supreme Court said so. The Tories themselves said so initially when they were looking for a safe country. So why is she now acting so petulant?
I genuinely don't understand what she's doing. And I agree with you that it's not only petulant, it just shows that this whole charade that she's put on since this whole business started was a pitch for leadership and nothing to do with trying to solve the problem. Because if you speak, look, there was an interview today with a number of people who are living in destitute conditions in France, trying to get over to the UK. None of them care and say that this is going to be a deterrent in any shape or form. So that's window dressing. The second thing is that the policy doesn't even cover very many people. We're talking about 161,000 people who are currently not being dealt with. We're talking about 40,000 or so coming over every year on boats. We're talking about £8 million a day. She did nothing. If she thought, and she's now saying, this was never going to work, then why didn't you say it was never going to work publicly when you were in office and resign over this instead of making a whole political charade? She should shut up, get in the box. I'm fed up of listening to her. Dreadful person.
You're serious. I wish her political acumen were as good as her legal skills, even though I'm not sure even her legal skills are up to scratch. And I do think, as a matter of principle, she should have resigned, because if she thought the situation was so unsalvageable, why did she agree to serve under Rishi Sunak? But I'm sorry to say this, she is right? This is not going to work. And I do think
you agree with Braverman?
I agree with Braverman, unfortunately, but she is right.
Oh, hang your head in shame.
Well, no, it's true. But the thing is, I agree with her, but she's not taking in the wider context, which is one of my many issues with Suella Braverman. She has no political acumen. At the end of the day, James Cleverly, who is now her successor, is not interested in taking us out of the ECHR because he thinks that's a very strange and useless precedent to set to effectively get 100 or a few hundred people off to Rwanda. But at the end of the day, she is making the point that Rishi Sunak is pretty useless, and she's not wrong.
Emma, is Braverman's 5-point plan worth it?
Well, what a shame she couldn't have actually come up with this fabulous 5-point plan when she was actually Home Secretary, when she was actually in charge of stopping the boats or doing something about immigration. Exactly. The other thing is, the Prime Minister needs to just ditch this plan right now. He needs to stop taking the public for fools, and he needs to stop wasting time and money on this. It's never going to work. Home Office insiders have been saying for months and years, actually, they're not serious about, they're really not serious about immigration. The Rwanda policy is a gimmick, it's a farce. It's eye-watering costs. If you actually work it out, sort of per immigrant, what it would cost to get these planes off the ground, to get people over to the other side or to the middle of Africa, it's an absolute joke. And I think that just out of respect, just respect the fact that we all understand that was not going to work. Come up with something that will work.
I mean, I think she's pitching for a job on this show, isn't she? I mean, all she really wants to be is a kind of right-wing pundit. All she wants to do is pen incendiary pieces, whether it's letters after she's sacked or 5-point plans. They're all obsessed with 5-point plans, aren't they? This morning in the Telegraph. I mean, I think you're completely right, Emma. I think if she was really serious about fixing, the channel crossing problem, we'd be talking about how we criminalise people traffickers, how we stem the flow of asylum seekers and refugees in the first place by stabilising countries, how we processing quicker, getting people out of hotels and setting up more, resettlement programmes with our neighbours in Europe. I think it's very obvious what the 5 points are. They're not this. But I'd watch out, guys. I think she's just desperate. She's all about brand Suella.
Becca for Prime Minister.
Yeah, there we go.
Becca for Home Secretary.
I think there's another point which I find extraordinary. So you look at the pictures from France. It's no wonder that these poor people, you look at how they're living there, and it's no wonder that they want to come to Britain, given how the French treat them compared to how we treat them.
Well,
so genuinely, why aren't we looking at the real reasons as to why this is happening, working with the French, working with the Europeans, to try and find a solution to stop it happening in the first place?
We are working with the French, though, and we've paid them...
No, we're giving them money and they're buying microwaves.
And the Home Office has paid 10 million to Belgium, and they have seen a reduction by 92%.
But do you know why they're so desperate to come from France? Because our asylum acceptance rate is double that of the French and the EU in general. I do have a problem on the point that Suella Braverman is just vying for leadership, which is, I think, is pretty clear now. One policy position does not a leader make, right? We don't understand her position on any other issue. We don't know what she thinks about the economy or benefits or healthcare or anything like that. I have an issue with this sort of personality-driven politics where we see someone say one thing that we like and suddenly there should be the next leader of the party. Actually, that's the dangerous precedent that was set with Boris, and we saw how that turned out. It's not just about Brexit or immigration or one issue.
But surely it just shows how weak, how in what trouble the Conservative Party is in at the moment, that we're suddenly like, OK, well, let's have her for Prime Minister. Well, let's have her. Sunak has literally no authority. He's never been a leader.